Joining me from Washington, D.C. is Michael Dorsey. He's the co-founder and managing partner at Ybor Sun Solar, and he's also a member of Club of Rome. Michael, biodiversity isn't something that we hear a lot about every day. You know, we hear a lot about climate change, but when you look at what's at stake, it's pretty obvious just how important it is. Tian Wei kind of setting the stage with her story that she just gave us. Give us a sense of the importance of biodiversity.
You know, we don't hear so much about biodiversity, but really biodiversity is everyone's business. It's the business of corporations to stand up and do more to protect it. It's the business of governments to also lead efforts to regulate its protection. It's the business of civil society, really, to keep pressure on governments and corporations to make sure it's protected, because biodiversity is truly the foundation and of so much that we use. It's the foundation of many, many medicines. The supermajority of medicines come from the natural world. It's a foundation of really protecting us from a great number of calamities, from the unfolding climate crisis. Reefs and coral reefs protect the oceans. They also protect habitats, and human habitats included. So really, biodiversity, it's the bedrock of ecosystems. It's the bedrock of keeping the planet really habitable going forward.
Michael, two-part question. What about the significance of China hosting this event? And then when you look at the 5 days, is there a good chance we're going to have a framework at the end of it? I mean, what are some of the obstacles in the way as China hosts this event?
Well, China's hosting of the 15th Convention of the Parties for the Biological Diversity Treaty is both with irony and hope. It's ironic, unfortunately, because China is really, I think, the global leader in the destruction of biodiversity. They're contributing the most emissions, driving biodiversity, the most carbon emissions. They lead in illegal fishing around the world. They lead in the consumption of wildlife, illegal wildlife, and also illegal timber. At the same time, they've also taken a big commitment to say they're going to end the financing of coal activities that are driving those emissions that they lead. Almost double the U.S. emissions come out of China and contribute to biodiversity loss. So there's tremendous, somewhat irony, but also tremendous hope as China takes a position to get out of the conundrum that it's actually unfortunately in at this moment.
We've done a lot of stories, though, in defense of China about how the country's actually, encouraged biodiversity, made some strides with conservation, done a number of stories about that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, absolutely. Look, I mean, the U.S. has yet to even hold or host a convention on biological diversity. It's put some of the lowest amounts of resources globally to support biodiversity. It's certainly contributing a great amount to the crisis unfolding. And so China's very hosting of the conference is actually important to set up a framework for going forward and to make sure that in the 21st century we see more out of China. We also see more out of countries. I think there's a tremendous amount of hope going forward from this process to really get out ahead of this unfolding crisis. We've got to set the target for 2030 of reversing the loss of biodiversity and make that as aggressive a target as we're making on the climate side. Really, climate and biodiversity efforts have got to be twinned and accelerated greatly, and they've got to be done at a scale that's fit for purpose.
And one final question before we let you go. Does this event help gain some traction or momentum leading to Glasgow next month and, of course, COP26?
It absolutely does. The reality is that the biodiversity crisis and climate crisis are connected, and the solutions for tackling the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis are together. That's why it's important what China is doing in terms of ending its financing of coal-fired power. That's going to contribute to reducing its emissions going forward and reducing emissions around the world, and that's going to be a net benefit for biodiversity and ecosystems. So those things are important, and so this Kunming event is going to really fold into what's going to happen in Glasgow in a productive way, I think.
Michael Dorsey joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks so much.
Thank you.